Hello and welcome to the Addicts Anonymous podcast. I'm your host, Jim R. Today's episode 209, and we're going to be interviewing Dave. How you doing today, Dave?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to do this. So let's rock and roll here. Tell me about your childhood and growing up.
Okay, I grew up in Irvington, New Jersey. It was more or less a ghetto. Not really a ghetto, but it was mixed. It was
Oh,
like
I'm
a
in
lot of
Jersey.
yeah.
I'm in Jersey.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I know Irvington.
Yeah, so I grew up in Irvington, a pretty much a broken household. My father was in and out of prison. My mom was in and out of mental institutions. So my mom and dad split up and we moved to Irvington, my mom and me, to stay with my grandparents.
How old were you when they split up?
3 years old.
Oh, so you're still really, really tiny.
I was young, yeah.
Do you have any memories from that time?
Yeah, I remember a lot of like when my parents were together before they split, there was a lot of abuse. A lot of like verbal abuse, physical abuse, a lot of, pictures flying and my dad throwing my mom up and down flights of stairs. And it was rough. It was really rough. And my dad was, like I said, in and out of jail. He'd come home, promise he would stop drinking or whatever. And the same thing happened until one night. It was like 3 in the morning. My mom woke me up and said, "Your bags are packed. Let's go." And we snuck away, went to my grandparents', apartment in Irvington. And my dad, like 4 years later, I was like 7 or 8. I was outside playing, and my dad came and he tried kidnapping me. So I ran home, and my mom's holding one arm, and my dad's holding another, and I'm gonna get him away from you. And I'm just like, you know. So growing up wasn't easy. I was filled with fear as a kid. I was just scared because I didn't, I blamed myself for all like my parents not getting along and my dad drinking so much and my mom crying and in and out of mental institutions. And it was just like, it was rough. It was really rough growing up.
Yeah, as a kid, we kind of think everything's our fault.
Yep. So
So
I
did you?
was I was just a scared kid. Like my even in kindergarten, I was just like I remember the first day of kindergarten, my mom's taking me to school and I wanted no part of it. I didn't want to get out the car. I saw all the kids playing and I just didn't fit in, I felt like I was never good enough. Like, my I didn't have a nice enough house, or my mom didn't have a nice enough car, or I didn't have nice enough clothes. So I always felt less than all my other kids in class and stuff. So it wasn't always easy.
No, I feel you on that. I grew up in a wealthy town, so I was not one of the people that had a lot of stuff. But looking back, I never really wanted for anything. I always had food on the table and a roof over my head and clothes on my back. So I can't complain too much.
No.
So did you have a lot of friends?
I mean, I wouldn't say a lot, a decent amount though. Yeah, a decent amount.
Did your childhood did anything going on at home affect like your relationships with people outside of the home?
Well, I did have a bowling coach, like how do I put it? He kind of like sexually assaulted me. Like he touched me and I was just like I was young, so I didn't really know how to react to the situation. And I hid it from everyone and I held it in. And it happened one time, and then I told the dude I like hit him or whatever, and I was just like, it kind of like traumatized me in a way. Plus all my whole circumstances This all happened before I picked up a drink or a drug. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. How old were you when that happened?
I was probably like 7. Yeah, 7 years old, right before like Little League. And it screwed me up because I was supposed to join Little League, and my uncle's like, join Little League, and I was just filled with fear. And he pushed me, and I'm like, I'll never make it. And then I finally tried out, and I made it, and but it was just hard growing up. I just never really thought I was good enough, and it was just hard because my dad, you never knew who was coming home. It was like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was a scary situation as a kid, because I didn't know if my dad would give me a hug, or he never hit me, but he would take everything out of my mom, until she left.
Physically also
Yeah.
and verbally?
Yeah. Like I said, he would drink and he would either be the nicest guy in the world or turn out to be a monster. And like half the times, I wanted no part of either one of them. You know what I mean? So
How would he? No, you go first.
I held a lot of resentment for a lot of years against my father. You know what I mean? I blamed him for a lot of my problems, but now I look back on it, I would have had them problems if I had a perfect dad or a perfect mom or a perfect household. Because I feel my problems started inside, like as a kid, like not feeling good enough, not measuring up, feeling less than. So I feel like I had a soul sickness my whole life, until I figured, got introduced to alcohol and got introduced to drugs. And then all that fear and disease and discomfort went away. I was able to feel okay in my own skin. So I think alcohol and drugs in the beginning was like a spiritual awakening. I felt like I belonged. I didn't feel, I loved it. Like I wanted to do it. Like I remember the first time I got drunk with the kids on the railroad tracks, and I had beer, and they were able to stop. They were able to have like a 6 pack, have a beer or two, and stop. But with me, I wasn't able to stop. The one beer would turn to 2 beers, and the second would want a third, and the third would want a fourth. And I would end up going home with vomit all over me because I couldn't stop. I just, I'm allergic to alcohol, and drugs. So once I put that in my system, I don't have an off switch.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I'm an alcoholic also. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I always make sure that I had some at home. I remember that because you never wanted to stop drinking. Like you said, you just couldn't stop like other people, and I was always afraid of running out.
Mm-hmm.
I felt
I
more
always
comfortable.
wondered how some people could have a glass of wine or have a drink and then say, I feel a little something, I'm going to stop. I was never that person. Even from the first time I drank, I was never that person. I drank for one reason and wrote one reason only, because I love the effect produced by alcohol and obviously other things.
Yep. So, what were you like in school? How'd you do in school?
I average. I would say average. Not awful, but not good. I kind of just got by. Just got by. A perfect C student. But I would go to school. I would do what I had to do. At a very young age, I loved baseball. Baseball, I loved it. That was my outlet. Every day I would go play baseball with the kids around the neighborhood, and I excelled in baseball. Baseball and bowling, I really enjoyed. until, I played junior high ball. I played high school ball for a couple of years. But once I really got involved with hanging out and like smoking weed and, drinking and all that sports stuff was like, it took a back seat. So I got thrown off the baseball team because I thought that partying was more important, you know? And I probably could have went further in my sports, but I discovered alcohol, I discovered drugs, and you kind of give up on all the good in your life. You kind of push to the side to keep getting, loaded.
Yeah. When did you first use?
I had my first drink probably like 6 years old. I probably smoked my first joint maybe 11
So
and
6 years
11.
old. Were you consciously drinking to get drunk at 6 years old?
No, no, but my dad would give me alcohol. The first time I really drank, I think I was like 12, 13. My friends would, we'd go to railroad tracks to get loaded. And once I got loaded, the first time I had a drink, my dad gave me a shot of JD. I was like 6, 7 years old, something like that. I took it and I was like, oh, I'll never do that again until, like 12, 13. My friends, oh, we're going to go get some beer from my dad or whatever. And we would drink. And that's when I like realized how much I loved the way it made me feel. Like the effect. I love the effect. I'm like, this is great. Like, I felt like, you know, Elvis Presley. I felt like freaking, I was beautiful. I was handsome. I was able to talk to people. I was a different person. It was great. I loved it. And
Yeah.
when I did drink, I couldn't wait to do it again. I don't think I don't know if I was born an alcoholic because a lot of say, I have family members, but I just know for a fact the way it made me feel, I was just like, wow, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to ride into the sunset with. This is great.
Who introduced you to it? Oh, actually, no, I know the who introduced you to who'd you smoke the joint with?
My friend, oh, I would hang out with older kids and they would smoke and
Did
when
you
I
like it
remember
the first time you tried it?
what was that?
Did you like it the first time you tried it?
Yeah, yeah. It just calmed me down. So like, for most people they start with alcohol, then they go to weed, and then, it just goes down and down. We'll get into that later, I'm sure, but it's just the progression. It was just progression. So I had my stages like, alcohol, weed. Then as I got older, I would do the acid trips. And then I got into smoking angel dust. And
Ooh,
then it just,
what does angel
I'll,
dust feel like?
you feel like Gumby. You're just
Like
like,
Gumby.
yeah, you just feel like you have no legs and you're just like out of it. But, it was a good feeling.
Hers is angel dust PCP?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So we would go get PCP. I don't want to get too far into the story because you're going to probably ask me questions. But I remember when I was 16 years old, all my friends were going to the city to get values. Valium.
Yeah.
So we went. I remember. I remember I didn't have money, so I sold my BMX bike to my friend's brother for a couple $100, maybe like 200. So I took that money. We went to the city, and all my friends, they were doing the values, and I didn't. So I bought like 5 of them. And I remember I did 5. They were blues, 10 milligrams. I remember
Ooh.
this. I did 5 of them and I didn't feel anything. It was like an hour. I didn't feel nothing. So I bought more. I bought another 5. I did them. That's 100 milligrams the first time I ever did them. Bam. Hit me like a ton of bricks. I ended up, my friends, we were in the city, we're going home to catch the train home. I remember my friends got on the subway, and I was the last one, of course, and the doors just shut. My friends were on. I couldn't get into the subway car, and I ended up on a bus going back home. And I remember on the bus, I was smoking hash on the bus. I didn't know what I was doing, obviously. So the bus driver, he pulls over, and I'm like, what's he stopping for? And he throws me off the bus. I just completely blacked out. That night, I ended up walking in the middle of the street on my way home. The cops picked me up. I ended up overdosing. I was in a coma for like probably 3 weeks to a month. And I'll never forget this. I'm in a coma. They read me my last rites. I was ready to die. And I woke up, and my whole family was in the room crying. And I wake up and I'm like, what happened? You know what I mean? And I went to rehab. I went to a rehab, and I got out of the rehab. I did a 28-day rehab, and I got out. And the first thing I did when I got out, I waited maybe 10 minutes. I went to see my friends, and we started smoking again like it never happened. So the progression from me as a kid, I was an IV drug user at the age of 16, 17. It just got worse
What were
and
you shooting
worse.
up?
Huh?
What were you shooting up?
Heroin, coke, drinking methadone. I mean, I was a garbage head. Like there's nothing I really wouldn't do or try, and I just wanted to not feel what I felt. And I don't know if it had to do with the abuse as a kid or me being sexually abused, or I can't even answer that. All I know is anything that got me out of me, I wanted more of it.
Yeah.
So I've been to like 16 treatment centers, probably like 30 detoxes. Like I've been through it. I've been homeless. I ate out of dumpsters. I was homeless in Patterson. And I tried everything. And like when I would go to these rehabs, they would tell me all the same thing. Just go to meetings, raise your hand, say you're a newcomer and this and that. And I did that. But as I got sober and I would go to these meetings, I just felt like the hole in the soul. Like it didn't work. And then one day I needed something. So I found a sponsor and I started going through the book, and things changed. I'm coming up on 13 years sober in June, which is accomplishment, so I've been through it all, and I know what doesn't work for me and I know what works for me.
Let's take a step back real quick. Going back to when you were a kid and you first did it, what what did it feel like to shoot heroin? I'm curious about that.
Wow. I had a friend help me with it, my friend's brother. I didn't shoot up the first time. We snorted it for a little bit, like a month or two, and then someone said, "Listen, you're doing all this. You could do half the amount. Try this." And I didn't hesitate. I shot it up. My friend told me how to do it, and bam, that was it. All bets were off. Like that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted. That's what I chased. And I was, my drug of choice for like 20 some odd years. So obviously I loved it.
Yeah. What did cocaine feel like when you shot it up?
Oh
Is it
wow.
Is it feel similar to snorting it? Because I've only snorted cocaine.
No, it's a different rush. It's like your ears wiggle and it's just like you can't really explain it. It's like snorting it, you kind of like Jones for it a lot. You want more and more and more. You shoot it, you get that like real crazy rush, and you're kind of like calm for a little bit until you got to do more. It's not like you got to keep doing lines, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a major rush.
So what did you do once you graduated high, or did you graduate high school?
I no, I quit school and got my GED.
Okay.
And
Why'd
then
you
I
quit?
had like meaningless jobs, construction jobs and any jobs to give me enough money so I could do what I needed to do. Then I started selling weed and, so I had money because I knew I got to a point where I needed more money than I was making. Back then I'd make $200 a week and that was gone like, that. So I would go to New York. Had a friend that I would get weed from, and I would, get maybe start with a couple ounces, sold that. Then I would get more and more, and I was up to like a pound of weed selling it. So I needed to support my habits. So I did that to support my habits. I wouldn't have to go like to do crime and break into cars and houses and do what other people that are under the influence do to get more.
Yeah.
But I just got by in school. I remember caught I got caught with weed or something, not selling it, just like personal. And they told me go to rehab or you're kicked out of school. So I just said, you know what? I told my mom, I'm done with school. I'm gonna get my GED. And my mom, like she loved me, but she really had no control over me. You know what I mean? She wasn't a disciplinarian. She wasn't gonna throw me out of the house because she knew, my problems. And I put my mom through hell. You know what I mean? She was the sweetest, most woman, and I hurt her like not physically, but I mentally hurt her. And she passed away in like 2005, and she had like a heart attack. Well, first she had like a brain aneurysm, and she was in a hospital. And I remember I would go visit her, and it's just like she wasn't even my mom. Like she was like I didn't even recognize her anymore, and that just like took my addiction to a whole nother level. That's when like I didn't care anything about anything or anyone, and I had no quality of life whatsoever at that point. I was just like just living to use. That was my only purpose. And then I lost her in 2008. I came home. I would take care of the dogs for her. She was after her surgery, the brain aneurysm. She was in a wheelchair, so she was like basically paralyzed. So I'd help with the dog, feed the dog. And I remember one day she told me, she's having heartburn. Could you come after work and walk the dog and feed the dog, which I did all the time. So I walked the dog, I fed the dog. My mom's like, come here, come here. So I went to the wheelchair. She kissed me on my cheek, and her head just went like that. And she had a heart attack in my arms and passed away.
Wow, it must have been really difficult.
Yeah. And for the first time in my life, when I knew she was gone, I called 911. And out of the blue, I just got on my knees. I just got on my knees and I'm like, God, I just can't do this no more. I just couldn't do this no more. And I remember the day I tried going to her funeral sober, and I think I did. I think I just got off of E. And I remember I got home from the funeral and I was just like at my wits' end. And I had a credit card with a cash advance, like they gave you the numbers. And I'm like, I opened up the mail and I saw my name with my PIN number, and I was able to access like a lot of money, like maybe 2,000 out of an ATM. And I ended up that night in a hotel room with I had a loaded pistol, I had an 8 ball of coke, I had like 3 bundles of dope and a bunch of Xanax sticks. And my objective was to stay in this hotel room until I died. Like that was my goal. And I remember I was there for like 2, 3 days, and I went to the bathroom. And this is a true story. I splashed water in my face, and I looked in the mirror and I saw my mom, vivid. And I'm not even like I seen her face, and a tear was running down her face. And she's like, "Please go get help." So I called my old counselor, Nicole, from Eva's Village in Patterson. I did outpatient there. And I told Nicole, I'm like, listen, I'm in bad shape. I lost my mom. I want to kill myself. I'm too scared to do that. I'm like, I'm done. I need help. Like, please, could you help me? And I went to Eva's. She put me on a waiting list. I had to wait a month. I went to the shelter. I was living in a shelter, and I went to the program for 18 months. Eva's Village in Patterson.
It's a long program, 18 months.
18 months.
Yeah, no, I'm saying that's long.
Yeah. And I needed every second of it. You know, um, it helped me. Like it really helped me. I've been sober ever since, you know. And I've learned that like recovery for me isn't just sitting in the rooms of AA or sitting in the rooms and just going to meetings. Because maybe some people could pull that off, but for me, it'll never work. I can't just sit in meetings and just do AA and pretend like my life is good without working step work. Like that's what saved me. Like I went to all these rehabs and none of them really ever got me sober. The only thing that got me sober is someone telling me what my problem was, because I really didn't know what my problem was. I thought I just drank too much and that was my problem, or I drugged too much and that was my problem. My problem was I had a soul sickness that, you know, I didn't know how to enjoy life without the use of alcohol and drugs. And then once that wore off and that didn't work no more, I was even worse sober, the way I felt about myself. So I needed to find a solution. You know, when I went to from the rehab, I went to a halfway house, and I went to a halfway house and I went to some meeting in Wall Township called Design for Living. And it was, let me tell you, it was like 300 people and everyone had the big book. Now I did AA because I consider myself an alcoholic. I tried NA. It's too much war stories. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Because I thought everyone I would speak at an NA meeting, they would glorify how much drugs they did and how much street they were and this and that. And I went to AA and I seen people that were happy. You know, they were all happy people. Like they all had the big book. So I met some guy, Jimmy A, and he took me through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And you know, I was broken and I was broken sober. You know, that's probably why I relapsed every time, because I didn't know how to feel sober. I didn't know how to feel. I felt worse sober than I did my worst day getting high. And I'm like, if this is the case, I might as well end it. Like, because this is ridiculous. I shouldn't feel worse sober. And I did. And that scared me. Like, that really scared me because I'm like, the drugs aren't in my system anymore. I should be feeling better. And I met this guy and he told me, he's like, listen, try to make it to 90 days. Try to make it to 90 days. And if it doesn't work, you can go back and drink. And he took me through the big book and things changed. Like things really changed. I understood understood what alcoholism was. You know, I understood that I'm allergic to alcohol and I can't consume any alcohol. The first drink will lead to the second and the third. So I needed to find a solution to my problem. And the solution to my problem is a higher power. You know, a God of my understanding. You know what I mean? And I went through the steps. I remember I got my 90-day coin, and after the rehab for 18 months, of course, I met a girl. I thought she would keep me sober, and I used again. And I remember 18 months I went to a rehab. I got out. I was good for a little bit. I had met a girl, and you know, I thought she would be able to keep me sober. She started drinking. I would get her alcohol. And I remember one day we were at a Christmas party, and I had no intentions, zero intentions of drinking. And they had an open bar, and them Heinekens were looking real frosty. You ever see a frosty Heineken? How beautiful it looks, and the sweat dripping down. So I drank, and me and a girl didn't work out, and I'm driving. I'm driving home, and me and her broke up. And out of the blue, I called my old halfway house manager, and he told me, "Come to this halfway house. I got a bed for you." And then I went through this journey, and I've been sober ever since by the grace of God. And you know, it's been it's been a rough 13 years. I mean, because people think the longer you're sober, for me, you hit walls in sobriety. You have peaks and valleys. And every time I hit a wall, like me, I'm a type of person, I redo the 12 steps every year. Like every year, I'm going to a different sponsor, or I'm getting someone else to take me through the work again, just to get a different experience, a different, you know, because my first spiritual experience isn't going to take me through 13 years. You have to keep, you know what I mean? You got to keep reworking the steps, and you have to go through these spiritual disciplines. Like I look at my life today, and it's like I help people. I've worked in rehabs, I've worked in detoxes. I'm out of that field now because it kind of consumed a lot of me, but I'm a miracle, and I have a purpose in life today. And my purpose is to try to help as many people as I can. And not just sponsoring people and taking them through the work, but just being a service at my job, being a service with my neighbors, I'm married. I met a girl in recovery. I've been married 6 years. She's got about the same clean time as me. So my life's pretty awesome today. Am I jumping too far ahead?
No, you're good.
Good. Okay, cool. You got
You're
any other
good.
questions?
No, we're getting towards the end here. I really appreciate you doing the podcast today. You got quite the story.
Yeah. Yeah, I went from literally I was the dude, I was homeless. I couldn't pull off the apartment. I wasn't that dude. Like if rent was due and if I'm at the bar having a couple drinks, I'm not thinking about the rent. I was the type of dude that would have a couple drinks, and I would tell my friends, listen, I'll be back in an hour and a half. My friends would be at the same bar, and I would be like, yo, okay, I got like a half ounce of blow. Like let's party for like 5 days. And I look at my life today, and it's like I owe it all to God. Like people, like everyone says this misleading thing they always say when you speak at a meeting, don't mention God or don't mention the steps. And you know what? That is the biggest crock of crap I've ever heard in my life, because I needed to go to a meeting where someone would speak about God and someone would speak about the steps, because I really don't care about your war stories, and I don't care how you drank, and I don't care how you drugged, but I do care how you recover. I do care to how you turned your life around. How are you able to live life regardless if you lose a loved one, or because we get sober, shit still happens. Life still shows up. In 13 years of sobriety, I lost jobs. I've made multiple mistakes, but I never picked up over any of the mistakes that I made. You know, I'd lose a job. Okay. I'd call my sponsor. Oh, I did this. They let me go. Okay. Next. And he would give me a perspective like, okay, it's a job. Nothing is permanent in life. You know, the breath that I'm taking now, in 30 or 50 or 60 years, I'm not going to be taking that breath. So I have to look at life every day like I have another chance. Every day I wake up, I'm very into the prayer and meditation. I think out of all the things in my recovery, I think meditation has brought me to a place that it's like, it's wonderful. Like when I sit there and meditate, and like when I do the steps, when I like I do a 10 step, I do 11 step in a, you know, nightly review. I do a nightly review. I got all the questions. Have I been dishonest? Have I been resentful? What could I have done better today? And I think about my day every morning. I'll sit in meditation for 10, 15 minutes and just contemplate, not plan my day. Because a lot of people think it's planning your day. I'm going to plan my day. Okay, I'm going to go to work. I'm going to do that. No, I'm going to say, how do I want to show up for life today? You know, I want to be patient today, or I'll set goals each day. I want to be patient. I'm a waiter. I work at IHOP. I want to be nice to my customers. I never ask for like material gain. God, take me today. Show me how you want me to be today. You know, and all that stuff has helped. You know, like living in 10 and 11, 10, 11, and 12 and being able to help alcoholics. I've spoke on Zoom, India, Ireland, Africa, like in my area where I'm living now, it's mainly discussion meetings. And you know what? For someone, I'm no better than anyone, and I'm not saying that, but to just sit in a discussion meeting, it just doesn't really do much for me. I like going to like big book studies and going to solution based meetings where, you know, people are just there to get better, you know, to work the steps and to get better. I guess some people could just sit in meetings and be okay, but if I'm sitting in meetings and not doing step work or not helping people or sharing a real solution, I've been to meetings where I like speak, you know, for an hour and I'll speak about God and people just look at me like I got three heads, or like mention something in a big book and they look at me like, what's this dude doing? Like, I'm glad when I first got sober, I went to these solution based meetings where people were talking about the book. People were talking about, it's a textbook. Like Alcoholics Anonymous, just like NA has a basic text, AA has a basic text
Yeah.
where the steps aren't just on a wall to be on a wall. The steps come from the big book, and the big book gives you instructions on how to go through each step, you know, and it explains in Bill's story, there is a solution about all the steps. And like I had to read them first 43 pages to really know what was wrong with me. You know, the really, like I read Bill's story and I'm like, holy mackerel, like that was wrong with me the whole time. Like this was because I drank like Bill. I acted like Bill, no matter how much money I made or what kind of job I had or what kind of girlfriend or I had. None of them external things would keep me sober. You know what I mean? Is I could have a great job. Okay, I'm gonna blow that job because I can't stop drinking. Or I'm gonna have a beautiful girl, which I had beautiful girls. I'm gonna blow this relationship because I can't stop drinking. I can promise you, I can swear to you on a stack of Bibles, I'm not gonna do this again. And I had no power of choice or control. So it's not if I'm going to drink again, it's when. And I can easily stop for 3 weeks, a month. I'll be able to stop, but I can never stay stopped. That's what makes me alcoholic. I can never stay stopped, you know.
Yeah. So what kind of things are you doing nowadays to keep yourself sober?
Go in a lot of Zoom meetings. I try to make 3 in-person meetings a week. I do a big book study. My sponsor's in Doylestown, so I'll go to Saturday night. He has a 1 hour speaker meeting, which is really good. I just try to stay connected, and I just go to meetings that move my soul, like that help me, that I'm able to help people also,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of middle of the road AA, and I'm not bashing it because it works for a lot of people. They could just go to their meetings and be okay. But for me, I need more. With almost 13 years of sobriety, I need a little more. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know how I feel when I go to certain meetings, and I know how I feel when I go to meetings that are actually, I'm learning, I'm hearing people sharing the same experience, how they went through the book and how these steps have changed their life. You know, for me, it's not about just not drinking. That's the little crumb on a plate. It's living life. It's living these steps, and in all my affairs, like just being connected and living spiritually. That is the main thing, because for me, not drinking is not enough. It's not enough. I got to behave correctly. I have to have a good attitude. I can't let people get under my skin. Like if you're driving on a road and someone cuts you off, 13 years ago, I'm chasing that person down and I want to fight.
Hmm.
Today, I pause. When I'm resentful, agitated, doubtful, I pause and I ask God, okay, I feel a little help me. And I pray and I get out of it. So I'm not a holy roller, but if I would have known what I know today, I would have done this so long ago. I just wouldn't have went to meetings. No one told me to get a sponsor. No one told me to go through the book. No one told me that there's a solution to my problems. I just thought going to AA, make my 90 and 90, and fellowship is going to keep me sober, but it never did. It never did. I had to do more.
Had for the working.
I had to, and I still have to, and I continue to still have to. I just got done with a big book study with some lady from Donna. We started out with 40 people. We ended the big book study with 4, because no one wants to. Everyone think like people bail out on step 4 and step 9. Now, when you do a 4 step and you do your, harms, your fears, your resentment, your sex inventory, that's all. It's about not being a victim anymore. It's about looking at your side of the street, what you did to other people, how I affected everyone that ever loved me, because I hurt everyone that ever loved me, from my grandparents to my mom, to my girlfriends, to my friends. I crapped on everyone that ever loved me, and I blamed you for my problems. The 4 step is just like, here's the mirror, dude. It's not them, it's you. It's you. So go look at your part in all this and clean it up, with the 9 step. The 9 step for me was powerful because I forgave the guy that molested me. I forgave him. Resentment's gone. My father, I forgave him. Resentment's gone. You know, There's sick people in the world. The guy that hurt me as a kid was sick. I prayed for him. My dad, he was sick. I prayed for him. He passed. I wish we had a different relationship. Even my mom, she was an alcoholic or addict, but she was sick. She had mental problems. I forgave everyone. And I looked at my life that my whole life I was just selfish and self-centered. And everything had to be my way. And now today, it's not about me. It's about me being selfless and me trying to help as many people, like me coming on here. If one or two people hear it and enjoy it or whatever, or get something from it, that's what it's about. It ain't about me. It's like I'm doing service. This is my way of doing service. And to me, that's important. That's like really important. But I'm a different person today. Thank God. I'm able to have a bank account. I'm able to have a car. I'm able to have a nice apartment. I'm able to love my wife. Like we just celebrated 6 years of marriage. Like if you would have told me this stuff 13 years ago, I'd have been like, listen, you're crazy. I'm never going to be married. I'm never going to have my own 760 credit score. It ain't me. I'm not that dude. But in actuality, I am that dude. You know what I mean? Like life is my oyster. I could do whatever I want. I'm free. And being free is the best feeling in the world. I'm free. There's no resentments. I might not like everyone in the world, but I do love everyone. And it's pretty remarkable being sober, being able to carry a message, a real message of recovery. I wish more people would get that pain that I felt because that pain brought me a solution. That pain wanted me to have a passion towards AA and a passion towards being sober that is a beautiful thing because it forced me to do the work because I didn't want to feel like that piece of crap no more. I wanted to feel okay and be free and be happy, joyous, and free. And all I had to be is honest, willing, honesty and willingness is key.
Yeah, I'm glad that you found your way. A lot of us unfortunately don't. A lot of us don't make it out alive.
And that's the sad part.
Yep.
I've worked in treatment centers, and you know what? I lost a lot of people that I really loved that I like would talk to in the middle of the night, and I would tell them all the same. I'm like, it's not going to get better. It's never going to get better out there. It's only going to get worse. And the way people are dying from this fentanyl stuff, if that was happening in my day, like the way it is now, I wouldn't be on this podcast. There's no way. I would have never survived it. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about that. So I guess I stepped out when I stepped out for a purpose.
Yeah. All right, my friend. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. Did you have anything else that you want to throw in?
No, I just want to thank you, Jim, and it's been an honor, and I hope I did okay.
You did great, my friend. It was a great interview. You gave us a lot of information. I think we got to know you pretty well.
Awesome.
All right, so do me a favor and sit tight. And for everybody watching and listening, if you like what you saw and heard, go below and give us a like. Also, subscribe to see when we upload new videos. You can check us out on all social media such as Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Discord. You can also check out our website, which is www.addicts-anonymous.com. There you'll find plenty of free resources and literature. So I hope you enjoyed today. That's all we have. And until next time.